Hello and welcome. Today we're going to do some troubleshooting on this CC Wi-Fi. It's a recent eBay purchase for me. I've only used it for a couple months and I've grown to like it. So what has happened is that I was just in the room where this radio was. It was plugged in, but it was not turned on, and I just heard a zzz, and I look back and I see there's no display on this unit, and I'm smelling burnt electronics. So disappointed in that occurrence. So it's become a priority to get this radio operational again, because I've rather enjoyed it and its capabilities. So jumping in, there's 4 screws on the back, and they're way deep in there, so you need a long, small Phillips head to get in there and get those out. So once you do that, which I've already done here, trying to operate camera and radio with one hand. There's a little ribbon cable there that plugs in. Just gently tug on that to pull that off, and you've got the board off. And there's the insides. I was rather surprised on the layout and the electronics that I do see in here. It's surprisingly, you know, a good surprise. I didn't see any tubes in or anything like that, so high level of electronics in here. So I guess what I'm going to do first off is I can just see that the speaker is got a jack in there. I'll unplug that, and then that big heat sink there, I'm sure that's a part of the power supply circuit. I'll have to get close to that and see if that's delivering the voltage that it needs, because it's totally burnt out. There's no display at all. So that's the journey ahead of me. Get this radio operational again soon. You know, I'm sure that the way it fizzled out like that, there's some kind of design problem with these things, and I'm sure there's a lot that have fizzled out as well too. So we'll see if we can fix this guy. Okay, so it looks like this is the power supply board slash other stuff, but I can see that there's a capacitor down there. Doesn't look very healthy. So there's some jumper cables to take off. 1, 2, 3, and there's another one down there, 4. They look, these 3 here look very similar. These 2 do. So I have marked them. So let me get the needle nose down there and pull that connector off, and there's 2 screws on either side of the board here that are holding it in, and then they can just slide right out. So let me get this board out. Okay, there's our board, rather interesting. Look at that, that's a USB connector there. So looking at that capacitor, I don't know if that capacitor is blown up. I guess it is. I think that makes sense there. It doesn't look like it's bulged, but it looks like it has leaked out, and hopefully the chemicals there haven't damaged any components. Otherwise, my $60 radio is toast. So there's the power connector. Let me clean that up, see what I find. Well, that's the best I can clean up that board. That section in there definitely got a bunch of tar in there, but I can't get it off. Hopefully it hasn't damaged anything there. I also noticed on this connector there was some explosion debris on there as well too, so we're going to assume that this 25 volt 1000 microfarad electrolytic is bad. I'm going to replace him, and very interesting, I just happen to have a bag of replacements here, 1025 volts, so I think I've got the necessary part. So let me swap that out, and hopefully that's all there is to it. Okay, got that old capacitor out. They used a very high melt temperature solder on there that my regular soldering iron has struggled to heat it up, so I had to pull out the big gun. I had a 45 watt, and it seemed to heat up that solder, so that was rather interesting. Just had to make note of that. Here is the old, and here's my new one. 25 volt, 1000 microfarad, but it's physically a little bit bigger, so maybe that's an indication of why this guy blew up. Looks like I have a little solder there to remove yet. New one's in. Physically a little larger, but that doesn't matter. Let me hook up the wires, and let's see if that's all it is. That, my friends, is the sound of success. It's functioning, although not as what you'd expect. That capacitor was defective and needed replacement. But what it did also was it took out the adapter, power supply. I got 0 volts on this thing now. So I've got another adapter on there, and it's only putting out 6.5 volts, so it's just enough to get this thing going, and it kind of does work, but I'll have to look around and see if I got another 7.5. But looks like that capacitor blew, and it took out the AC wall adapter too. That's rather something I've never experienced before. Although with these switching mode units here, they're pretty finicky, so oh well. Good news is, radio is alive, and I'm sure other radios out there could possibly be brought back to life as well too, with what we learned here today. Thanks for watching. See ya.